When students open an English Bible, they often assume that the order of the books reflects the way the Bible has always been organized. In reality, the ordering of the Hebrew Bible in Christian English translations is a later tradition shaped by theological emphasis, pedagogical concerns, and historical development rather than by the original Jewish canonical structure. In the Christian English tradition, the Hebrew Bible, commonly referred to as the Old Testament, is organized into three major literary groupings: historical books, poetic books, and prophetic books. This arrangement is not arbitrary. It reflects a narrative logic that moves from Israel's story to Israel's reflection on life and faith, and finally to God's prophetic interpretation of Israel's history and future, historical books. The historical books come first in the Christian ordering. These texts tell the story of Israel from creation through the fall of Jerusalem and the exile. They include narratives about origins, covenant, conquest, monarchy, division, decline, and catastrophe. This section begins with Genesis and runs through Esther. While these books are often described as history, it is important to clarify that they are theological history, not modern critical historiography. Their primary concern is not simply what happened, but what God was doing in and through Israel's story. Within this section, the first 5 books, the Torah, hold a unique and foundational role, which we will return to shortly. The remaining historical books describe Israel's life in the land, its kings, its failures, and ultimately its exile, setting the stage for the prophetic critiques that follow. Poetic books. Following the historical narrative, English Bibles place the poetic books, sometimes called the wisdom and poetry section. These books shift the reader away from national history and toward reflection on human experience, faith, suffering, joy, justice, and the meaning of life. This section includes works such as Psalms, Proverbs, Job, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Songs. Rather than advancing the historical storyline, these texts explore how individuals and communities live faithfully within the world described by the historical books. The placement of the poetic books after the historical narrative invites readers to pause and reflect. Having seen what happened to Israel, these books ask deeper questions. How should one live wisely? Why did the righteous suffer? How does faith respond to injustice, grief, love, and uncertainty? The final section in the Christian ordering is the prophetic books. These writings contain the messages of prophets who spoke on behalf of God, often addressing Israel's moral failures, covenant violations, and misplaced trust in political power. In the English Bible, the prophets are presented after the historical books, reinforcing the idea that prophetic speech is a response to Israel's historical circumstances, especially the monarchy, exile, and post-exilic period. This section is traditionally divided into major prophets and minor prophets, a distinction that is frequently misunderstood. Major and minor prophets. A clarification. The labels major and minor do not reflect importance, authority, or theological weight. Instead, the distinction is based entirely on length. The major prophets, such as Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel, are longer books, often containing extended narratives, sermons, and visions. The minor prophets, 12 shorter works traditionally grouped together, are brief, concentrated messages that address specific historical and moral crises. Despite the terminology, the minor prophets are not lesser prophets. Their messages are often just as forceful, theologically rich, and ethically demanding as those of the major prophets. The distinction is a matter of scroll size, not spiritual significance. The special role of the Torah, Pentateuch. At the heart of the Hebrew Bible, regardless of ordering, stands the Torah, also known as the Pentateuch. These 5 books, Genesis through Deuteronomy, occupy a privileged and foundational position. The Torah establishes the creation of the world, the covenant with Israel, the giving of the law, Israel's identity as a people bound to God. In the Christian ordering, the Torah appears as part of the historical books, but its role is far more significant than merely historical. It functions as the theological constitution of Israel, shaping everything that follows: history, poetry, and prophecy alike. The prophets critique Israel precisely because Israel has failed to live according to the Torah. The poets wrestle with life under the Torah. The historical books measure success and failure against Torah fidelity. In this sense, the Torah is not simply the beginning of the Bible, it is the interpretive center of the entire Hebrew Scriptures, a biblical survey print. Concluding perspective. The Christian, English ordering of the Hebrew Bible is designed to tell a coherent story: history, reflection, prophetic interpretation. Understanding this structure helps students read the Old Testament more intentionally, recognizing why books appear where they do and how different genres function together. It also prepares readers to appreciate that other traditions, especially Jewish ordering, organize these same texts differently, often with different theological emphases. This awareness is essential for responsible biblical interpretation and for respectful engagement across religious traditions.